is John Powers. Now Buckley moves it. Here comes Old Glory. They got a chance for a break here. Nice ball there, and Old Glory. They said, we'll see your try, and we'll counter with that.
I loved playing at a high level against the best teams.
Almost like telepathically communicating with each other, like always.
As DC gets going here again.
Here they come, Robertson. He's got a chance. Robertson cuts it off. Beautiful ball, and Old Glory. It's number 2 of the day.
So you're always playing the best of the best, and you're playing with the best of the best at the high school level.
Does he have the speed? Does he have the pace? Yes, he does. Connor Buckley puts New York on top.
Work really hard for each other, and that's, I think that's the most important thing is that, the X's and O's are great, and it's awesome to have a good game plan, but if you can't get a group of guys to buy in, then it doesn't matter. And I'll take the guy that works hard over the talented guy that doesn't any day of the week.
That's put him in the position that he's in. He's just, I've never met someone with such a determined work ethic. Yeah, we built some pretty strong chemistry and we found each other on the field a lot, and it resulted in a good amount of points for Iona.
Here we go. Out again. Bow tie with the no look. Fido beats a couple of men. Remember, he played for Samoa Sevens, and the ball is kicked into the try zone. It's a race. Buckley, who's there? Connor Buckley with a tremendous try for New York.
Being Free Jacks. Free Jacks will be in action on Father's Day Sunday. Jason Robertson, one more man. It's Connor Buckley who will put the punctuation on this one. Second try of the opening half for Old Glory.
And I also learned a lot coaching. A lot of the things I do in my rugby games that I don't really think about, you have to find a way to explain those things to other people. All you can control is your attitude, your mindset, how hard you work, and how prepared you are. Spirit of Rockaway, yeah, I'd say it's a pretty unique and independent place. I mean, it's a tight-knit community, it's small, but it's also right next to New York City, so it's got that big city feel, but at the same time it's got a small town feel, so it's pretty unique. So growing up, I always played football and baseball, and I love both of them, still love both of those sports. When I got to high school, Xavier High School in Manhattan, I played football in the fall, and my freshman coaches, my football coaches, convinced me to go try out for the rugby team. I mean, Xavier is always, year after year, a top team, a top high school team in the nation, so you're always playing the best of the best, and you're playing with the best of the best at the high school level. I had originally planned on trying out for the baseball team because I love baseball, but a lot of my friends on the football team at the time were going to go play rugby, and also, my coaches really thought it would be a good fit for me, so I gave it a shot. Yeah, I think early on, John Kelly, he was my freshman football coach at Xavier, and he was really pushing for me to go play rugby. Early on, I really looked up to John Kelly, and he was a great man and really helped me out in the early stage. I know that in the 2 years I played varsity at Xavier, I loved playing at a high level against the best teams, and those are the games that I itched to play.
Connor's drive for success caught the eye of Bruce McLean, fellow Xavier alumni and, at the time, head coach for Iona Rugby.
There's a couple guys that I wanted, but this was one in particular. I was like, this guy's great. I wish he would come to Iona.
I mean, Bruce, for one, he was a big draw for me. Bruce was also a Xavier guy, so he was very relatable for me. And yeah, I mean, they already had a talented team. They were just coming off a year where they had beat Army for the first time, so they had a great team, and it looked like a favorable situation for me going into it to really get some playing time too. So, it didn't all come down to rugby, school's important, so Iona's got a great business school, and I was able to get a good scholarship there, so those things fell into place too, and it just so happened that the rugby was great too.
The dynamic was fantastic. I essentially made him a captain in training pretty much out of the box, and the reason for that was I think that a lot of times people are like, the captaincy takes a lot out of you. But the captaincy doesn't take a lot out of you if you train the guy to be the captain. So, okay, you're part of the warm-up. You're helping run the warm-up. You're making sure the freshmen are doing all right. You're a freshman. You're making sure they're doing all right. If guys are having trouble, guys are having trouble with school, guys are having trouble, you let me know. I'll handle it from there. But for the most part, then he gets to learn what it's like to be a captain. then he and I would have a relationship where we're talking about things strategically. He was essentially the quarterback of the team. So now we're talking about the strategy of the team. We're talking about how we're going to move our team going forward. How are we going to train? What are we going to do in practice? And in doing that, we developed a really strong relationship. It would be very similar to the relationship a coach and a quarterback would have in football.
He just made it easy. He made it really easy to play good rugby. You know, from his skill, his athleticism, to just like his knowledge of the game, like he made playing rugby at that level very easy.
When we played a big game in college, you know, I always showed up, and that was, you know, you can't, in my opinion, you can't be a guy that dominates the weaker teams and then goes missing against the great teams. So anytime we played in Army, Navy, Penn State, I always felt like I gave even more. And I think a lot of those games are good examples of some of my best in college.
Eventually, he caught the radar of Rugby United New York, at that time, the premier rugby team for the state.
When you're playing the best of the best, you're on a bigger stage and more eyes are watching it. And, you know, they might not be watching because of you, but if you go out and leave it all out there and play really hard and play well, all of a sudden your name gets floated around. So the plan was always to graduate in December of my senior year. So I'd finish up all my classes, and when the spring came around, I no longer needed to be at Iona, and so I just went into the league.
He was the #2 vote getter in the Rudy Schultz Award, which is like the Heisman for college rugby, and it was very, very close. And then he wound up not getting drafted because everybody assumed that he wasn't going to want to leave New York. And because that happened, then he wound up signing with Rooney, but it was definitely not a great situation. He's being promoted on TV as like, this is going to be the right, and he's the guy in the room just sitting there like, oh my God, nobody's picking me.
Although Connor went undrafted, his wish would be granted as he signed with New York later in 2021 as a free agent.
Sometimes you run into those doubts where you're like, man, can I do this? But, you know, you back your training, and, you know, I'm a big believer in trusting the process and, you know, falling in love with the journey, not really the result. You go from the big dog on your college team to now, you know, the little pup on the Major League Rugby team, and you got to fight your way. So my first year was a big learning experience, and it was really good for me. I think it was really important, but it was tough too. So after my first year, I got a real, you know, I took a hard look in the mirror and said, all right, these are the few things I need to do to get better and be a real contributor on this team come my second season. So I worked really hard that off season, and I came back, and, you know, I won the starting job early on, and I was, you know, contributing a whole lot more, and we were winning, and it was a lot of fun, and it was just a result of a lot of the work I'd put in, but I still had a ways to go, and I still have a ways to go.
Forcing a knock on, and New York, the concrete jungle where dreams are made of, one of the greatest cities in the world, are now home to the champions of Major League Rugby.
But it was really cool to be a part of that championship team, and yeah, that was a fun season, and it was great to be a bigger contributor to it.
That was a great year for Connor. He really broke out as a player, and I think that was the first time he really started to cement himself in the league as a starting scrum half.
Connor not only won the championship at the national level, but the collegiate level too. In 2021, he returned to Iona with his younger brother Brendan to help Iona win the Liberty Conference Championship.
Here they come, Iona going for the corner. Connor Byrne flicks it back in beautifully. It's a money ball. Oh, there it is.
Coaching has been very rewarding for me. I mean, one, you know, it was cool to coach a lot of guys that I had known already. So going to Iona was fun for me, and it gave me a different perspective.
Quit waving it around.
You know, as typically being a player. And I also learned a lot coaching. You know, a lot of the things I do in my rugby games that I don't really think about, you know, you have to find a way to explain those things to other people, and, you know, that can be challenging, but it's also, you know, it also helps your own game and your understanding of the game. So.
When we were coaching together, it's odd because
Tommy ain't having it.
He and I get along tremendously as to values-wise, what we look for in a team, what we look for in teammates, what we look for in players. But the thing that it was odd because I'll coach guys on their emotions, on their feelings. I'm a player coach. Connor is technical coach. I'll do all the tactics and techniques, but as far as being on the field, Connor is bang, bang, bang.
The demise of Rugby New York.
When the team folded, that was really hard. That was, I think a shock to all of us on the team and the fans as well. And, it took a little bit to figure out what the next steps were. And for some guys, that meant going elsewhere. And for some guys, that meant that was it. So it was sad. And, we were building something there. We were retaining a lot of players. So, we had really built a family there. And that was probably the saddest part. I have any aspirations of quitting. So it was a mix of emotions, but you had to sort of put your emotions aside for a little bit and get down to business and figure out what was next. And for me, DC seemed like a great fit, and I'm glad I went there.
It began with a little bit of panic. He kept his head a little bit more than I did, and we were really lucky to find or to be found by an organization as good as Old Glory.
Went there my first year, new coach, about 20 new players, so there was a lot of turnover going on.
I think Connor would agree, we both probably ended up in the best case scenario following the collapse of Rooney.
In DC, he became the man. He became the guy that they looked to, not the guy that they looked to on the bench. So he was the starting scrum half, he was the starting quarterback, he was the man. And look, that's not without trials and tribulations. He's constantly got to be on his toes, but that's kind of always been Connor's way. He knows how to fight for his position. He knows how to make his team win. He knows how to make his team go forward.
I've had a lot of ups and downs in my career. My career has been more defined by my reaction to the downs than it has been the ups. The ups have been great, they've been fun. I've had a lot of really great games in my career. I've been a part of really great wins, been a part of really great teams. But it's been my reaction to the down moments, to the not getting picked, the bad game, things like that have defined my career. And I think have shown a bit of test of my character and resilience, and I like to think I keep getting back up.
I want to say like his pet peeve, but it's just like probably people who aren't honest with themselves about the work that they've put in, and he makes plenty sure that he puts in the work that he needs to, whether it's fitness or skill or studying the game. There's never a moment where he's not perfecting himself as a player. And I believe the word that he's used to me is obsessed. He's just obsessed with becoming better, and it just shows in the work that he does. He's obsessed with the game. He's obsessed with his skill and getting better and being the best. That's put him in the position that he's in. I've never met someone with such a determined work ethic. When I'm on the field with Connor, I feel like it's almost telepathic. Like I'm always on the same page with him, and I don't know that I'll be able to form something like that with anyone else as a player. And as a guy, I just think he's like one of the most stand-up, just stalwart, like always does the right thing type of good human. So
hard work beats talent. I think that's pretty obvious. I think a lot of people say that, but I'll take the guy that works hard over the talented guy that doesn't any day of the week, because you know what you're going to get from them, and you know they're going to get better, right? And I think the other thing that's really important is controlling the controllables. There are certain things you can't control. You can work really hard every day, and you can get better, and you can put yourself in the best position to succeed, and then it doesn't happen. And that's not always your fault. If a coach doesn't want to pick you to start in a game or off the bench or not even put you in the team, you can't control that. All you can control is your attitude, your mindset, how hard you work, and how prepared you are. And if you do all those things, usually you will get picked. But sometimes those distractions can take over a player, and they forget about the real goal.
You won a title at Rooney with the MLR, and I hope that you win a title with DC, and I think that you're putting together a team that probably can do that. And the thing I really like about it is that it has a real American flavor to it, and the DC team is giving opportunities to American players like himself, and I want you to win a championship, and I want to be down there when you do it, and I also want you to win your first USA Rugby national team cap. I know you've been, kind of in the squad, but never really gotten your game yet, and I would like to be there when you do that, and I'm really proud of you, and I thank God every day that you chose to go to Iona and that we were able to work together.